Good
Good
afternoon.
Yep.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really good. Another beautiful day, but hopefully everybody's taking some time to join us today. Today's Wealth Creation Show, we are talking about the top 10 rules to get your money right. Quite an interesting one to talk about today, Jim.
Well, actually, you picked a subject, wasn't it? And then you picked
did.
up the 10 rules to get your money right. And then we're going to talk about this in depth. Now, this is actually taken from someone else far more successful than us, the actual 10
Yes.
top tips. However, we're going to talk about it in context of what we do and how we do it. And I'm going to talk about and put my personal stuff on it as well. I've learned over the last 30 years. So you're getting a different perspective from my point of view about what this means to me, and then also to yourself, Richard, as well. And you'll be, obviously asking questions. If you're watching and you're tuning in right now and you're live, it's your golden opportunity to ask any questions at this point in time about these individual subjects that we're going to be talking about. Literally, it's again, as I said before, Richard. The only reason, one of the main reasons I do this is obviously at some point in time, this is going to be timeless content. This is me passing on my knowledge and my expertise and what I've learned before, rather than sitting my children down and going, this is what I did and this is how I did it. It's like, I just leave it for them. And they will be able to watch this in years to come, possibly when I've put my clogs and I'm no longer on this planet, and actually still learn from this content, because it's the point of readiness. I talked about this last night. The point of readiness is, it's preparation and opportunity meets. That is the point of readiness. Now, preparation is right now, what everybody's doing right now, which is learning as much as possible and asking as many questions as possible to learn as much as possible. But the opportunity might not be there right now for this point in time for anybody to actually jump on anything. So it's that preparation and the opportunity when it comes along is the point of readiness. And you don't know when that's going to be. For me, my first property, it was when I was 4 years in to finding out and developing my mindset in order to break out of that restriction that had been put on me from the education system that I went through from primary and high school. That's the kind of thing. And I don't decry the education system. I mean, it's there for a reason. It's there to produce what I call good worker ants, and people that stay in their lane, if that makes sense. So people that stay in their lane and they stick to their knitting and they do what they do, and that's it, and kind of live for the weekend and all the rest of it. It's, for me personally, I just want a bit more. I just wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. I just wanted to be more involved. I wanted to be excited about what I did. And this is, this is kind of what I did over the last 30 years. But I just didn't think like anybody else at school. Kind of was the one that looked at the window and I've always got my report card. He's a bit of a dreamer, and it's like, oh, thanks very much, because it's the dreamers that actually create something. So that's the sort of thing. So let's talk about this. I mean, what are your thoughts on this yourself? I mean, what is your thoughts on this yourself?
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on what you spoke about there, I mean, I do agree. The education system's great, but I think that there is an opportunity for people to kind of step out the lane as such and aspire to be bigger. And I think a lot of people are in the same mindset of there is more to life, but not sure how to kind of get there. And I did pick this subject for today, the 10 rules to get your money right, and as taken from someone a lot more successful.
This should be taught at school.
Yes, I mean, I watched it and I thought, God, how great is this? And when you listen to, obviously, and we'll go through the different points today, you could relate it to what you do in your own life and or what you aspire to do, and it's quite a good top 10 rules. Obviously,
here's a great saying for you: we live in a country which is rich, and yet the people have scarcity in their mind at all times. And it's exactly what the media do right now. It's almost like, there's nothing. We've not got money. There's no money available. We're all skint and we're all broke. And it's like, wait a minute. If you take stock and look at the facts right now, you're not that bad off. And then if you ship yourself over to Kenya, they'll show you what poverty is really like.
Yeah, that's real poverty, definitely. But I think the topic for today is an interesting one. And I think, firstly, I mean, simply, is your money right? It's a simple question. It's a simple yes or no answer. If you need to hesitate, about your answer, whether it's yes or no, then the answer is probably no. And wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, what I would say to most everybody out there tuning in is, are you willing to make the sacrifices necessary to get your money right in the first place?
Yeah, and that's what I think. If the answer to that question is no, and your money isn't right, then are you willing to make the sacrifices?
If you're not prepared to pay the invoice for success, wait till you get the bill for regret.
Yeah, the bill for regret
a hell of a lot more.
Be a lot more. Yeah.
Imagine 100-year mortgages. They're coming. 100-year mortgages, generational debt that you'll pass on to your children and possibly even their children, all because you couldn't get your money right in the first place. And this is why we talk about this right now, about learning to get your money right. Even if you're 70, 80-year-old, you can still learn right now how to get your money right. It just depends where you want to be in your life and what you want out of it. I keep saying to you, Richard, all the time, 55-year-old, I'm only halfway there and I'm just getting started. And it's like where other people round about me are like, oh, I'm really looking forward to retirement. And it's like, really? It's like, why would you want to retire? I would never want to retire. I just love doing what I do. I'm so passionate and driven by every single day. I get a real buzz out of this and privileged to do what I want to do. So this is why I talk about this right now. So what, do you want to kick this off and talk about the first one?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the first one we've got to cover here is don't spend it until you get it. Now, everybody's thinking ahead just now. Everybody should be thinking ahead and thinking about getting their money right, but don't spend it until you get it. I think a key phrase is never spend tomorrow's money, I think is quite important. Now, I think that when I've been looking at a lot of new investors and people that are on their journey, they're so keen and driven, but it's always important to keep your head and focused on and your feet on the ground on what you're doing at the moment, and don't get carried away and like I say, spending money that you don't have yet or spending tomorrow's money, as I say. Is that something you would agree with, Jim?
Yeah, we had a fantastic saying when I was in industry and manufacturing. Well, it was actually my saying, and basically I said, "There's no profit until the money's in the bank." You could be profitable as ever, but really you can't do anything until you physically got money in the bank and until you can commit to it, or you have equity or something to that effect. That you can get money on. In other words, borrowing it, but still, you've still got it. Remember. And that's why you're spending it, but you're just using someone else's money against your equity right now, so you don't need to realise the asset. The classic example of that is, for example, recently I got 1.3 million against some of my existing portfolio, and then I'm now again to reinvest that in other things as well. So it's just all about these different things. So I do actually have the money; it's just tied up in something else. So I use someone else's money to get that, to leverage my position, because if I can make 15% and I'm borrowing at 3.5%, it's an easy gig. You're making the differential every single time. So why would you not do that? To leverage your position. And what we mean by leverage is it comes back to physics, doesn't it? Here's the classic. If you take this as a lever, right? Here's your lever right there, which is this pen. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go down there and try to move this pen as a lever, it's a bit more difficult. But if you do a way back here and try to move, it's easy, isn't it? Yeah. And that's what a lever is when it comes to financial wealth. It's actually, when we talk about taking something, this is cash. This is where it is with cash. It doesn't leverage your position at all. It doesn't actually increase what you're getting. But there's when you borrow from somebody else at the right rates and the right returns and stress test and all the rest of it and risk analysis. Then it makes it a lot easier to do that, to do whatever it is. So if you're lifting something up, for example, it's more difficult that way, lifting something up, than it is using this way. So this is what we talk about in layman's terms and leverage. It's leveraging your position, which is your money and your wealth. In other words, using what you've got right now, but actually making it work better for you by using what we call effectively levers, which is the bank's money. Yeah. And that's what that's all about.
Or even, we spoke about it before, and we've seen a lot of people do it. And I've had some people come to me over the years, and they're in not a very great financial position where they're remortgaging, they're obviously taking the equity out that they've got tax-free, as they think it is, and spending that and leaving themselves in a position where they're then obviously mortgaged up to the house, they don't have any money in the bank, and so they're spending tomorrow's money.
Yeah, that's effectively what they're doing. They have actually overstretched themselves. They don't have anything left. They don't have anything available to do anything. So if, for example, an emergency comes up, or if a boiler breaks, or a roof has to be redone, or God forbid, if a fire happens, then you're left in a position where you've possibly got you're having to put a tenant to another property. But if you don't have another one available, then they'll go somewhere else. And if you're not adequately insured, I mean, you get into a huge minefield here. But then you're also stopping your income if you're not properly insured. So there's a lot of different things that come out of that. So I know we're detracting away from the don't spend it until you get it, but it's true. Don't spend tomorrow's money. Don't actually borrow against something you don't have, because potentially that could leave you completely exposed. It's the old thing about what Warren Buffett used to say: we'll see who's exposed to the market, because when the tide goes out, we'll see who's swimming naked. That's the reality. That's where a lot of people sometimes are, and I see that quite a lot. It's taught by a lot of education systems to keep borrowing as much and as high as possible, but not actually realizing. I mean, people like, for example, Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone doesn't borrow up to the hill. Grant Cardone actually does a 50 or 60% equity debt. He actually does loan to value about 50 or 60%. He is not a big fan of leveraging yourself right up to the very maximum, because then it leaves you completely exposed to anything. It could change in that market at any point in time. If the economy takes a turn, that has a knock-on effect to you. If your occupancy rate drops because people can't afford to rent your property, or they have to then, for example, maybe one person moves into one unit with two people, so one's empty as a result. Therefore, you're left with an empty home. Therefore, you're left with a void, and you've got less rent, you've got less income coming in. And if you're leveraged up to that and you're spending tomorrow's money, so to speak, then everything that's coming in is going straight away on debt. You've got nothing to do anything else with. And then if it even goes up anymore, you've got absolutely nothing coming in at all. So that's why we talk about don't spend it until you get it.
I mean,
very, very valuable lesson, and a lot of kids should know that as well.
Yeah, and the reason I brought that up as an example is it brings us nicely into our next topic, which is if you cheat your money will cheat you. And I think it's important to reinvest, feed, like that example, feed your business and reinvest the money that you have, save and reinvest
into. This is my favourite subject.
And that's
feed the baby.
Feed the baby, basically. I say feed
every single time. Feed the baby. Your baby in anything is your business. It's your property investments. It's any investments you've got. You always feed that baby first. That's the first thing that comes first. Your business is like your baby. You have to make sure it's looked after. You can't continually take money out of your business. And that's why we talk about if you cheat on your money will basically cheat on you. Now, when we talk about that, we talk about putting certain percentages by. Now, to be honest, I just every single time for the last 20 to 25 years, all I did was, everything I did was, I just lived on what I needed to live on. And that was about it, and just got by. And everything I did was done sparingly. For example, instead of taking a holiday abroad, I then just went to across to Craig Tara with the kids for the weekend. So I just went to Craig Tara to I think it's no Butlins anymore, is it? It's
Haven.
I can't remember what it's called.
Haven.
So I just used to take the kids over to Haven, and that was me. I wouldn't spend thousands on a holiday because I felt it was necessary to reinvest. Even when we had, Elaine and I got married, and we literally got the golf club for free, and it literally just cost us about 350 quid for the catering, and we were done.
Now,
I would hate to think what you just spent in Las Vegas, Richard.
Well, I rolled two things into one, so it wasn't that bad. I did spend a bit more than I planned, but
literally that's how I worked. Every single thing I got outside of that actually got reinvested in my business all the time, in my property investment, because I knew exactly where it was going and how it was building, and I knew it was guaranteed. Somebody actually challenged me last night and went on somewhere and went, next year's going to be a tough one, it's going to hit the fan. And I went, well, no, really, because it's all locked in for me. And they went, but the next year after that, you'll do it. No, really, it's locked in for the next year after that as well. And they were going, but the next year, it's like, no. My income is guaranteed almost for every single year thereafter, and it never has any bearing on my ability to perform at all now. And I think this person was actually to the point. They went, oh well, that's fantastic. Then I didn't think they knew what to say about that. But that's because I've reinvested in the beginning and I've actually put so much in and I didn't cheat. Now, what I would say today is probably this, I don't know if it's a 35, 35, 35 rule. You know what I mean? Like the, 35, 30, 35, 35, 30 rule, which is 35% of your income, probably 40% is going to go in the taxes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to go in
I thought it was about 40, 40, 20, to be fair.
Yeah, it's going to go in, well, you can split it how you want it. It's going to go in income tax. It's going to go in national insurance as well. And then you've got other things as well. But that's basically that's going to get chopped off. You're going to have to pay that regardless of your top line income.
Yeah.
So you're getting that whacked off. It depends on what you want to do with the rest of it to split it. For example, if you decide that you could live on 20%, 30% of your income, then live on that 20 and 30%, and then reinvest the either the 40 or 30% after that as well. So that's all about reinvesting, and do that continually all the time. Just discipline yourself to do it. I mean, I've done that with my kids' pensions when they first started. The kids' pensions when they first started, I was putting 77 in for Tony, I was putting 42 in for Ben, and I was putting £33 in for Scott. And literally, they've got pensions around about 100,000 each now. And yet 21, 23, and Tony's 29.
That's got a long
it's
way
like,
to go.
oh my God, imagine what that's going to be. There's some people actually coming out at 65-year-old with £100,000 pension right now as a pot. And my kids have got that at that age, and that's all I ever did, put a small amount away. So every time I got a wee salary increase as well, I went, I'm not going to live on that. I'm not going to use that as part of my living anymore. I'm just going to put that and reinvest that somewhere. But I did it in things that I could actually switch off if I needed to. So if I really needed it, and it came down to the wire, for example, savings on pensions, savings on investment funds, savings on property investment, it was all things I could easily be what I call variable savings. So you could actually switch them on and off if you wanted to, but I still discipline myself to do it all the time. I still send money out to Spain and save out there as well. So I still send every single month, and I've been doing it for the last 18 years. And so it just shows you. And so it's another income stream, another investment I do. So it's not, don't cheat on your money. Make sure you put stuff aside. And even if you get a salary rise, put that aside as well. And don't immediately go, right, my standard of living. This is why I talk about, this is a really good one, and I'll digress. This is why I talk about people that are rich and not wealthy. Now, rich means you've got loads of money coming in. Wealthy means you've got loads of wealth. You're not getting taxed on it. It's not reliant. It's money it's like property, it's art, it's gold, it's silver. That's wealth. That wealth isn't taxed until it's realized or sold. That's true wealth. But what I'm talking about is rich. Now, people can be really rich, but all they are is just broke at a different level. And the reason for that is because they've gone out and bought a Ferrari. They've bought an Aston Martin. They've got all the running costs to pay. They've got the payments every single month to pay. They've got a house that they've got to pay every single month. They've got rent they've got to pay every single month. So what they do is when they get a salary rise, it's, I can get a better car. I can get a better standard of living. I can get a bigger house. And it's like all these costs go up for them. So all they're doing is just being broke at a different level. Hey, you've got a great lifestyle, but you're broke at a different level. And you can no longer go back.
So it's important that people realize the difference between being rich and being wealthy and creating wealth. And would it be a fair assessment to say, Jim, that your business decisions and your financial decisions throughout your journey have got you to the position you are now in terms of your wealth? And if you had done it differently, do you think you would be in a position with your wealth at the minute? If you had went out and bought the cars and went on those holidays and
No, because we proved buying a Lamborghini Huracan over 20 years would cost you £2 million, even though the Lamborghini Huracan was 178,000,
which was crazy.
And if I'd done that in the beginning, I would have. I mean, to a degree, a place in Spain when I bought that 18 years ago, it's like I maybe would have made a lot more, but to be honest, I probably would have saved. I saved a lot more anyway because I went to Spain and it literally cost me £300 for the flights there and back, including the car. And people are paying thousands to go on holiday, and yet so that's the trade-off for me. It's I'm going over there, but the thing is, my holiday's no getting wiped out with the cost. I've actually got an investment as well that I use.
Yes.
So the price of that, the price of the property is actually going up as well, and yet I'm paying to use it. and I'm saving money on my holiday, but I'm actually investing money on my holiday as well. So I go on holiday and invest money.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a good decision, yeah.
So definitely, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I wouldn't change a thing because I am where I am because of that. One of the things I did do, one of the key things I did do, and you're saying about the pinnacle moment, was I actually, instead of taking the financial controller's position with Bell Security, I actually took a local financial controller's position with less money at a local place in Glenrothes. Because I was going to be traveling the world with the other one, and it wouldn't leave me no time at all to do anything else, and it wouldn't leave me no focus. It would take my focus off. So because I knew where I was going to end up in the end. So that's kind of another thing as well about cheating on your money. Also, cheating on your time is quite important in there as well. Eh? It's like, no utilising your time properly and actually doing what you need to do. There is decisions that I've got on my phone, and I think, right, I need to do them now. And I just do them.
Yeah.
Because I know if I don't do them, the repercussions later on will compound. So that's another one I would say.
Yeah. So yeah, and as we touch on the Lamborghini story, it brings us nicely on to our next one. If you can't write it off, don't buy it. Now, I don't mean write off the Lamborghini like into a wall write off, but I mean when we covered that, I mean if you can't write off a cost, then you shouldn't be, and don't buy it, basically.
I tell you what I loved about property investment and doing it myself and managing myself. I used to get to buy loads of power tools and I can write them off.
That's as an expense, of course.
What greater thing for somebody? It's like a guy or a girl, or it loves power tools and loves getting involved in building and making things and sorting things and all the rest of it. And literally, you're getting what I'm getting paid for that.
Yeah.
And I'm getting tax deductions on the stuff I'm buying. It's like, all these different things. If you look at things, and really it comes down to saying, Richard, it is like the new car. It is like everything else. If you can't write it off, don't buy it. The key here is whatever you're going to buy or invest in, it has to be wholly and exclusively for the use of the business, or you can't write it off.
Yeah.
You can maybe write partial amounts off, for example, using your energy bills in your house because you've got a home office. You're maybe using 10% of that, so you can actually take 10% of your electricity bill and actually set it off against your business for tax to reduce your tax outlay. So that could be used. Another one as well is what I did was I put through my normal car, right? I used my normal car for running about, but then I put through as a tax deduction the mileage that I was doing back and forward. So I never put the car through. I just used the mileage. So I took the mileage every single time I was having to go anywhere or do anything on behalf of the business. And then I was saying to the business, it's 45 pence a mile or whatever it was under the fixed car profit scheme within that revenue. Therefore, I was allowed to say, right, I've done 1,000 miles in the year. It's 45 pence a mile. So I'm allowed to deduct £450 from my profits before I actually get my tax calculated. And that's the sort of thing. But personally, I was just paying out of my own pocket. I wasn't actually getting it back from my business. I was leaving that money in the business. It was only to reduce my tax burden. So if you can't write it off, don't buy it under any course. If you really want to get this and you really want to discipline yourself, this is what to do. This is how you have to do it. So seriously think about what you're spending on and why you're spending it in the first place.
Yeah, well, and I mean that kind of marries in with the next topic as well. As rent and lease. Don't just use it. They don't own it, use it. So rather than paying for something, and like you say, your car's a prime example, lease your car rather than buying it.
Well, here's why we talk about this. Now, a lot of businesses, and the classic model of the businesses, what they do here is, they've got to maybe buy 10 or 15 company cars.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at that, if you're buying 10 company cars and you're outlaying £20,000 a car, you're outlaying £200,000 in your capital. Now, that capital should really be used for growing your business, not buying cars. So you can actually use that. Because if you're making, for example, if you're making a 15% return on your capital, then why would you want to go and buy a car with? So this is why we talk about rent it or lease it, because the rental and lease value is a lot less. For example, the Hyundai we've got is £225 a month, ex VAT. Now, we're VAT registered, so we can deduct the VAT. because it's wholly and exclusively used for the business. Yeah. And then it's only rather than being a £20,000 outlay to get that car, it's now just £225 a month, but it's actually tax deductible every month as well.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one to ascertain. And that's why, as well, as you get some people going to do training sessions and seminars, and they, property trainers sometimes and wealth creators, when they do their training programs, that's why they sometimes have it abroad. So the people actually coming to learn can actually kind of have a holiday combined with learning, and it's fully tax deductible.
Yeah, and I think that also as well, if you're operating as an agent or you're a bigger landlord and you have a premises, is it wise to lease that as opposed to owning it?
Again, it just depends. Well, with my setup, I own all my offices in a separate company, yeah. and I rent the offices to my other company. Yeah. Well, so it's nice and tax efficient, yeah. And it builds wealth as well. Now, probably the classic example of the person that used to do that all the time was Philip Green. So Philip Green, Arcadia Group, and you'll see a lot of businesses where they're maybe struggling. So they're maybe struggling, they're maybe not making profits, and all of a sudden they collapse into administration, and what happens is you get somebody buying them, and they come in and they buy them for like 100 million. And you're like, what? Why would you buy a business for 100 million? Because they've got all the real estate they own. Yeah, they actually own that real estate, and because they own that real estate, that's got intrinsic value in it. And this is what Philip Green used to say. He used to say, I love the concept of retailing, but he says the retail is only to build the real estate empire. Your exact model of that right now, it does that, is McDonald's. McDonald's is a real estate. Yeah. McDonald's is a real estate corporation. They've got nothing to do really with selling burgers. That's what their franchisees do. All they do is they rent the premises to their franchisees, and they pay them rent in return. And if you look at McDonald's public accounts and their statements, they actually say they're in the business of real estate. It just so happens they're selling hamburgers. If they weren't selling hamburgers, they'd be selling something else in the same real estate, but the model exists in its entirety, and all it is duplication. It's a fantastic model. It's franchising. Franchising 1-on-1. It works perfectly well. And that's another thing. If you don't own it, just use it. Definitely rent or lease where you can. Use your capital, invest, and make more money if it makes more sense. Because the rental value or the lease value maybe is maybe 4% every year. And yet if you're making 15% return on all your capital invested, why would you then want to tie it up and buy a car?
Yeah, no, definitely. So there's ways and means, and I think reasons for doing it like that. And I think obviously you just explained that quite well. So that's good. And I think the next topic brings us back to, I think it kind of touches about spending tomorrow's money and stabilize and grow your first income flow. And I think that's important to do that and have it up and running and successfully providing an income or cash flow, as I'd like to call it, before you then jump onto your next project.
This is all about getting your money right, okay? So we're on the subject of getting your money right.
Yeah.
There's an old phrase out there that says a rolling stone gathers no moss. Mm-hmm. Now, I used to sit and scratch my head, and I asked my dad one day about that, and he says, well, Jim, what happens is, and this is what I used to do. He says, you look at things, and this was when I was a young lad. Maybe I'm still a bit young now. No, really. When I was a lot younger. He says, what you do is you're jumping from place to place. I used to start things when I was really young. I used to start doing something, and then I wouldn't end it. I would actually just go into something new, and then something new, and something new, and something new, and something new. And and I never really built anything or got any traction in anything. Now, this wasn't in business. This was just at school. And you found that it's like once you started, if you didn't finish it, you never really got anywhere with it. But then you'd start something else new. And this is what we call a serial entrepreneur, a serial starter-upper. Not a serial entrepreneur, but a serial starter-upper. Serial starter-uppers are prone to fail because what they do is they lose the excitement. It gets to the boring bit where the money starts rolling in and they go, I'm not excited any longer, so I'll have to start something new. And then they, and then they actually almost self-sabotage their own business or whatever they're doing. And in the prelude, that they get the excitement of even self-sabotage and actually starting another business and going on that big upward curve again of excitement and where we're going and what we're doing and telling everybody all about it. And that's the thing about stabilizing, growing your income flow first, your first one first. Make sure you get it right. Keith Cunningham, Rich Dad. Now, Keith Cunningham is Rich Dad, by the way. That's who the book's all about. Keith Cunningham, Rich Dad, said, it's like, he said, look, boring pays well, Jim. That's what he said to me. And I was like, I'm excited. No, he says, Jim, get used to being bored. Boring pays extremely well if you get it right. And he says, once you've got boring right, then you can think about your next thing, and then you can go on your venture with that and get the boring bit right and make it happen, because it pays every single time, money in every single month, bang, 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 bang. It's like printing money.
Yeah.
And the way you're doing it, if you do that right, it's almost like printing money every single month. And then, you need to do other things with it, obviously. We're going to talk about that later on, but this is what it's all about. So stabilize and grow your first flow income first. Don't rush into the second thing. We see that all the time, don't we, Richard?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to another project. I'm going to another project. I'm hitting down this wall, hitting down that wall. And the next minute, it's like they get to the end of the year and you think, you've not got a pot to piss in. You've not actually built any intrinsic wealth. You've actually just earned an income. You've got another job.
Yeah, I do see that. You see that a lot, and I mean, it's a mixture of being overly keen and maybe naive about what they actually need to do. And it's like, obviously, they'll set up their first investment and be really excited about it and things. But
well, we know how that happens.
Yeah.
Do you know how that happens? Because the people teaching them want to sell them another course.
Yeah, and keep pushing and keep
So
pushing.
it's in other words, now we've got you on that about just to buy mainstream buy-to-let properties. Let's talk to you, and my friend here can talk to you about currency exchange, and then my other friend here can talk to you about crypto and sell you a course on crypto. And so it's like, and they're running about and they've got, I've got crypto going, I've got currency exchange going, I've got my property investment going, and I've got this going, I've got that going, and it's like, and they're spinning all these plates, and it's like, oh my god, and it's like,
some of them are going.
Nothing will come out of that. Nothing will come out of that. They just feel excited and they feel they're going somewhere because the person training them and teaching them just wants to sell them another course. This is again another well-known phrase that I was actually taught. Jim, stick to your knitting.
Yeah.
And always make sure the person teaching you is eating their own cooking.
Yeah. What I thought was an interesting one that we done in a previous show, we looked at the timeline of your portfolio, Jim, and how you started and the years between your first property, then you bought another one, and then you bought maybe another one, and then you bought another. Do you know? And we've done that, and through time and over a longer period of time, how it come to fruition. But you needed to.
First 5 years, wasn't it? First 5 years, 2 properties, year 15, 28 properties.
Yeah. So you
how
need
did that happen?
Yeah, so I think that's important to know that.
And it's literally, you can lose sight in the first 5 years with the 2 properties and think to yourself, this isn't going anywhere. But if you understand the projections and understand where it's going and keep that in your mind and see that happening every single day, it's what I had on a wee spreadsheet written down in my pocket. And I kept that. I would love to find that again, you know that. And I kept that. And I looked at that all the time and I thought to myself, yeah, this is a formula. This works every single time. And I was on track for it. And I thought, I wonder if I could beat that. It's almost like when Google Maps tells you you're going to get there at 2:30 and you think, I wonder if I can make it past 25 past 2 and beat it by 5 minutes. Well, that's what I did with my spreadsheet when I kept it on me. I wonder if I could buy a property just before this date I've got here, so I know in my own mind I'm ahead of the game. Now, if I didn't do that and it was a wee bit later, I'm like, it doesn't matter. I can catch up on that and do it again, or I can refocus. And that's the sort of thing we're talking about. So it is all about stabilization. It's growing your first flow income and actually focusing on sticking to your knitting and making sure you get that right before you just run away and do something else. Make sure you're making something. Because I keep going back to it, and I can't stress it enough. All you're doing is you've got another job. It's like you're supposed to be working yourself out a job, not working yourself into another job.
Yeah, and I think, that brings us nicely into the next point, and that's the 47 rule. So 40 hours for your work and 7 hours for you. Now, when I say 40 hours for your work, whatever that may be, and I think the 7 hours for you, for me, it's an hour a day, say, on self-development, whether you want to read, whether you want to watch things like this, the wealth creation, learn from other people, and take that time to develop yourself.
I might have done the 140-hour rule. 40 hours for my work, 100 hours for me.
Yeah, but I think it's important to get a balance between the hours you spend, and then also concentrating on yourself as well.
It's interesting you say there, Richard, it's important to get a balance. Yeah, it's for some people out there. But I'll be honest, anybody that's been really successful has worked more than 100 hours a week at. Yeah. You know, they've maybe been in a full-time job doing their 40 hours, but they've worked another 60 hours outside of that, or even more, doing what they're doing. Or the mainstream. I mean, Bill Gates used to talk about, basically sitting at his desk and coding all the time, and then just falling asleep in front of his computer, and then getting up something to eat, and then start coding again. And that's all he did. I do remember there was times I used to be working during the night, cleaning houses, you know, in my early days when I first started, at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I would often just lie down on the actual carpet or on the bare wooden floor and fall asleep and wake up a couple of hours later, or maybe an hour later, because it was really uncomfortable, and then just get started again. And then I would actually have the house ready for somebody to move in before when I came back, and I had the lease all drawn up as well, and then I would go to work. I'd just get washed and changed and go to work again. And often that's what I did and how I did it. So, you know, there was times that I just, you pay, it's paying the price. You'll pay the price now or you'll pay it later, but at some point you'll pay it. But it depends what you want and what success level you want. So I'm no talking, you know, if you want 7 figures, then you're going to do what I do and possibly even more. But if you're wanting, you know, just 4-figure income, you're wanting an extra couple of £100 a month, you can do that in your sleep. It's or I could help you do that in your sleep, and we can help you do that in your sleep. Well, literally, it does do when you're in your sleep. Hey, I've woken up. I've got more money in. It's like, I mean, literally grow rich while you sleep. But anybody that's been successful at anything, you could ask them, and I'll bet you a pound to a penny they've done that. Some people have actually worked 1,000 hours a week. Work that one out. There's only 160 hours in a week.
I was just going to say, how could you do that?
Well, because they've used other people to multiply their position. They've leveraged themselves. They've brought other people in to help them. So they've actually collectively on their project put 1,000 hours in that week. But they've only been using maybe 40 hours of their own personally. But they've actually managed to leverage their self to 1,000 hours. I mean, what do you think we do here? What do you think we're doing right here? Why do you think everybody's working in this team with me? It's like I'm leveraging my hours. I'm leveraging my position. What do you think you're doing with your team as well? You're leveraging your hours and you're leveraging your position as well. You wouldn't be able to sustain that and do that all yourself. That's why you bring other people in and leverage your hours. So this is about the 40. We'll talk about the 47 rule, which is the 40 hours. If you just want to get started, work 40 hours at your work or 35 hours at your work. But genuinely just start off and put the hour in a day yourself. And that'll compound to 365 hours a year. Because I'm saying, put the hour in on Christmas Day as well, and New Year's Day as well. And I will do today what others will not to achieve tomorrow what others cannot. I knew when I was working on New Year's Day and Christmas Day and any other day, and even now I'm working and other people aren't working because they're holidays, I knew I was doing something more than them, so I'll be more successful than them as a result. And that's all I ever thought about. I knew when I was ill, and I still dragged myself at my computer, and I still worked when I was ill, right? I knew no one else would be doing that. None of my competition would be doing that. So I knew I was getting ahead of them because I knew when they were ill, they wouldn't be doing anything. So I was getting another 30, 40 hours in if I was ill for a week. So that's how I looked at it. I never thought about anything other than if I was doing something more than everybody else, then I'm going to get better results than everybody else because I'm doing more. So this is all about working smart, working good, and making productive use of your time.
Yeah, I think you've made a really good point there, and I would tend to really agree with that. That if you're always prepared to do that wee bit extra that you know other people aren't going to do, you're going to see the difference in how successful you are.
Here it is. Do you know what happens when you do that wee bit extra for an ordinary person? They become extraordinary as a result.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. Nothing special. It's just an ordinary person. It's done that wee bit extra every single time. It gives them extraordinary results.
Yeah.
So definitely leverage your position. What else have we got then?
Really good points there, Jim. Thanks. Number 7 is stay broke because cash is no good until you invest it. And I mean,
I've not even got cash on me because I didn't carry cash anymore. But effectively, this. I mean, you know, if I grab a bit of paper, let's grab a bit of paper, an economic statement. Just pretend that's a £10 note. A £10 note is no good to you just sitting as a £10 note until you use it. Yeah. It's only a promissory note to say that, you know, it's valued to the £10. But that £10 note, if this was a £10 note, you know, if you sat it on the side, it would just stay there forever and it would depreciate in value over time. Yeah. Because the cost of goods, I mean, think about when you were younger. I remember speaking to someone this morning, we were talking about a fish supper, and they went, a fish supper's £8. And I remember when a fish supper was 80 pence. Think about that. Now, if I had my 80 pence now, what from that time, right? And I could buy a fish supper for 80 pence. I can't buy a fish supper for 80 pence anymore because inflation has eroded it. Yeah. And time's eroded it as well. And that's why it's important. However, if that 80 pence was invested at that time in anything, it actually multiplied with income. Therefore, it probably would have been worth the £8 again. And I would have been able to take that £8 and actually buy it. So it's about cash. Cash is no good just sitting as cash. Mm-hmm. It's all about putting it in to generate cash flow.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, cash on its own, like you say, will depreciate. But if you invest it in a tangible asset that's got the potential to increase in value, then that's where it should
be.
People
hoard it. Yeah. I'm going to take it out of the bank. I'm going to put it under my mattress. Guess what? it's no use to you. It's actually depreciating right now. For God's sake, just give it to me and I'll give you money for it. I'll give you a return on it if that's the case. Or give it to your bank and then your bank will phone me up and go, Jim, you want to borrow some money? It's like they'll lend me your money. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what people do. I better put it into the bank. I better keep it. I'm going to run out of it. I'm amazed at the amount of people, especially the older generation, that have that intrinsic feeling that they're going to run out of their money. And it's like, so how much have you got? Well, I've got about 600,000. Oh my God, that's going to last you forever. What age are you? Oh, I'm about 80. Okay, so if you last another 20 years, 600,000 is going to be £30,000 a year that you could spend, and that's not even saving it.
Yeah.
So do you think you're going to be able to spend 30,000 a year for the cash for the next 20 years till you're 100? Wow, that would be unbelievable. Well, why? Well,
you could do that.
What's the point of holding on to it?
Yeah.
Mentally, it's mental when people look at that in their entirety about what you've got. I've got a friend that actually said he's Diageo pension. He was like, you know, pension's going to give him a certain amount of money every single year. And he says, but he was offered the transfer value and they said, well, it's 600,000. And he went, holy shit, 600,000. He immediately says to him, well, I'm 50 odd now. I could survive on 20 grand a year in my hand because that's what I'm getting out after Diageo anyway, once my tax is off. So I could have 20 grand a year for the next 30 years. I'm 55. Yeah. So 85 up to 85-year-old, I could have 20 grand a year come hell or high water to live on. And I wouldn't need to do anything for it. Why would you not? And people don't realize that's what's right in front of them right now. They just don't think because everybody tells them, you've got to conserve your cash. You've got to keep your money. Oh my God, you're going to run out of it. It's like, the energy bills and everything's going up and all the rest of it. And it's like, whoa. Look at the facts first. Speak to someone. Speak to a financial advisor, someone that's actually got any qualifications, that actually puts this into perspective for you. Somebody you trust, by the way. No somebody that could just take your money and just end up investing it and charging you loads of charges for it. So make sure you get the right financial advisors. Ninian Hearns are actually a really good financial advisor for that. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend him if anybody knows Ninian. So that's the type of thing I would be looking at. So cash is trash. Put it to good work. You know, what one I won now, Richard?
7. So, and then I think this kind of ties it as well. I mean, number 8, never lose money, put it to work. And I just obviously number 8, but just to touch on what you spoke about there, Jim, about people putting money into savings accounts and holding on to it. And like you say, it just gives the bank the opportunity to then lend it to somebody else. And I mean, as soon as money goes into the savings accounts, the banks automatically, right, where could we then hand this out to other people who are probably investing it, which is probably what you should be doing your money rather than it sitting in an account. But yeah, never lose money, put it to work as number 8.
Well, for me personally, it then comes back to saying that it's like, I'm going to keep my money, I'm going to keep my money, I'm going to keep my money. What are you going to keep it for? Oh, well, to pass it on to my kids. Why do you not pass it on to your kids when they need it?
Mm-hmm.
Why keep it until, it's like when I go, it's like this comes back to the scarcity thing. I'm going to run out of money somehow. You're not going to run out of money. You'll never run out of money if you don't want to. It's an easy way to plan, just as I've said there, in a real simplistic world, and the fact that you can't run out of money if that's the case. If you invest it properly and you've got a mainstream income coming out all the time, maybe a fixed rate bond as well, you've got money coming out all the time. So you know exactly every year what you're going to get out of your bond, plus the bond's there as well. The money's there. So that's another way that people can, and that is low risk bonds, because they're government bonds backed by the government money. But you've also got other areas that you can do as well. So it's all about making sure, don't ever lose money, put it to work. Make sure it's actually earning money for you. Don't just keep it in a drawer, and possibly don't even keep it in a bank account. I mean, what are you getting? 0.1% still.
It's
my God. Yeah. It's like 0.1%. But as I said, they come to me and say, well, why would you, Jim, would you like to borrow it? And we'll lend it to you at 3.5. It's like, so you're getting 0.1%, they're taking your money and they're lending it out at 3.5.
Yeah.
We just cut the middleman out and come straight to me. I'll give you 5%. But now that's not a pitch, but genuinely, there will be deals. If somebody came to me and says, look, I'll give you 5%, I'll give you a profit split and all the rest of it, then I'll go out and find an investment that will give me that return to allow them and myself to actually win out of that situation. I'm not actively going to say, well, I'll put that in and, I could replace your income with my income. No. I'll go out and I'll invest in another thing with them, joint venture with them, and I'll make money and they'll make money as well. But they'll make more money than me because they're getting a 5% return on their money, plus they're getting a profit split as well. So that's a typical example of how I would do it. It's all about making your money work and never losing it. And that's the key point. Don't let it depreciate every single day just by sitting there and doing nothing. Inflation's sitting maybe around about 9%, 8%, 9% just now. You're getting 0.1 in the bank. So every year it passes, you're losing 8%. This comes back to the fish supper at 80 pence and the £8. That's exactly what's happened. Inflation over the years has actually got rid of it. Look at a bag of chips. She was saying a bag of chips £2.60 now. I remember when a bag of chips was 4 pence.
I think a bag of chips was about 80 pence when I was younger. But
look at that. That's it's gone up 3 times since then. It's still the same thing, right? But if you hadn't looked after your money, you'd still be 80 pence. You'd only be able to buy a third of that bag of chips now.
Yeah.
I'd probably get away with maybe buying a chip. That's about it, really. But it's about putting your money to work, never losing money, making sure it's earning money for you or doing something with it in order to earn money. Don't let it sit and do nothing. That's a
really important part of getting your money right is putting it to work. And like we just say, money in the bank. You don't want cash. Money sitting in the bank. You want cash flow, which is number 9. You don't want cash. You want cash flow.
Well, cash is no good to you, is it?
Yeah.
Cash is literally no good to you. Cash for cash's sake. I mean, as I said, I go back to this and saying it was a £10 note, it was a £20 note, it was a £50 note, and it was just sitting here in the house. People have their money jars. You put money in your money jar every year. You take it to the bank once a year, but guess what? By the time you open it at the bank once a year, at the end of this year, you'll have lost 8% in that money. So it makes no sense having money for money's sake. It's money for what you need to do and invest it wisely. If you're not going to do anything with it, make sure you do something with it. Even your children, when you think about this is the opportunity cost or opportunity lost.
Yeah.
Look at Tony, right? £40,000 I gave Tony to buy our house a few years ago. I gave her 40 grand for her house and I put it into her house. Now that 40 grand to me at that point in time, I could invest it in something else, but it was still saving her money. So I was still making money on the 40 grand because she was no longer paying the interest on it.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's still making money because she's no longer paying the interest on that. But it just so happens she's keeping the money and I don't need the money back because why would I want it? It's like, make sure she has it now. I've learned these lessons over all the years, Richard, from my own mother and father as well. It's like, you'll get this all when we're gone. Well, you're too late. You should have given it when I needed it. Some of their friends, actually, A.K. Smith, which was Andy Smith, if anybody remembers Andy Smith, if you're watching or listening out there, it ran Central Farmers in Methil. A.K. Smith, what he did was he liquidated everything and he actually gave 50,000 to his daughters and sons straight away. He said that's the best thing to do. So when he eventually went, You know, he was in a good financial position, but he didn't pay a huge amount of inheritance tax. That's another thing. We got asked about that last night. I got an email from someone saying, did they take the house as inheritance tax? Yeah, absolutely. They take that into the estate as well. They take a percentage of it based on what it is, but they might take the whole lot into the estate. So the house that your mum and dad owns outright and they've got all their money in it will go to there as well. You probably be better, your mum and dad actually, getting a mortgage on their house. Now, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Getting a mortgage on their house or even doing an equity release and actually just paying the interest every year on that mortgage and you paying the interest for them and actually taking that money and actually paying yours because they'll get a better interest rate than you will from the bank for buying your house.
Yeah.
Well, that one out. That's a good one, eh? That's a really good one, isn't it? Because then you're borrowing on the equity release. The scheme's actually, it's Willie Shand that actually has it. Willie Shand actually administers it or sells that fund. But it's actually really good because I looked at it previously. I wasn't a very big fan of it, but I looked at it again because it's been revamped. And I'm like, oh, that makes absolute sense. You're actually getting a certain amount because there's no risk to the fund. You can you don't roll it up anymore. You can roll it up if you want, but that compounds over 7 years and it ends up doubling over 7 years. But you don't want to do that. You just pay the interest on it sometimes, and the interest rate you're paying on the interest only, not the capital, just interest only. You're effectively getting an interest only mortgage for your children through you. They're not paying a capital repayment mortgage because you're paying your capital that you're getting to their mortgage and paying their debt down, but you're actually getting it at a better rate. How brilliant is that?
I know. See, when you listen to it like that, it just shows you that there is ways and means around things. But like you say, always speak
to your son and daughter if they can't get a mortgage. You just get your equity release through you. You give them the money. They go and buy the house, and they pay your interest on your money that you've borrowed. That's all they do.
Yeah, and I mean that's when you see it, it sounds it's crazy. That's why is everybody not doing that? But obviously, everybody doesn't have the knowledge to kind of think around it like that.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. But if you're going to do something like that, always speak to the right person, the qualified person, like you say, an accountant or financial advisor.
Willie Shand, as I said, I would endorse Willie Shand every single day of the week. I would for equity release. I would endorse Ninian for financial advice. I'd endorse Kessa Salimi for buy-to-let mortgages, and I would endorse for mainstream mortgages. I'd endorse Neil Bird as well. These are people and partners we've been working for all these years, and I've been working with them as well. And they're masters and experts in their field. If you want to go and see an expert about something in that area, then that's the person to see for each different subject.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks for that, Jim. Because I mean, there's a lot of people that you've mentioned there, a lot of really experienced.
Cash flow is more important as well. Just to recap on that, cash flow is vital, not cash. The reason that we say cash flow is vital is because cash flow is what allows you to do repairs, improvements, and anything you need to do. If you've got cash flow coming in consistently, then if you want to go on holiday, you have that cash coming in because it comes in the next month and the next month, regardless. So you're taking a one-off. It's like me going from operation on my knee. Yeah. It's like I took out $3,500, got the operation on my knee, job done, but I didn't pay that $3,500 again. It did that, but the money still came in again. And the cash flow still came in. So every single month, the cash flow came in. And all I do is I'll just reinvest it in some sort of way. I might take it out to take advantage of my tax position, and then just take it out, get taxed on it in a good way, tax by the way, and then reinvest it back in as a loan. Because then it's my money still, and then I can take it later on if I want, and it's not taxable anymore because it's been taxed already. But I can put it back as a loan to allow the business to then invest in more assets and more wealth creating and generating asset classes. So that's another way of doing that as well.
I think, like we spoke about last week, we spoke about passive income, and you're not a big fan of the term passive income. I think cash flow is probably better. Yeah.
You've got to work for it. It doesn't come for nothing. You're not sitting in your backside doing anything. Maybe if you're the Rothschilds or something like that, and you're the third generation family which have got a trust fund, that's a different scenario. That's passive, truly. Yeah. But you got to work for it. Even the guy that writes the book still has to go out and promote the book for people to buy it. So he's got to work for it. So it's never really passive. So we're all making passive income. No, you're not. Didn't kid yourself. This is another illusion. Smoke and mirrors, which is sold by property trainers, and buy my course, you can earn passive income. And then
use the term guru there.
Passive. No, you're not earning passive income. You've got a job.
Yeah. Okay. And then that brings us to our final point, which is never quit until you achieve your goals. And you should always have a game plan and a goal that you work towards. And now, whether that be set up for retirement or whether you want to have a buy-to-let business set up and functioning and be managed to leave for your children, you should always have a clear goal and a game plan and strategy to get there. And I think never quit and stick to it. Don't just, like you say, Jim, get a couple of years in and get bored and deviate.
It's just doing a wee bit extra every single day. It's just doing these wee bits. It's never quitting. It's never doing what you're doing. I mean, when I was challenged to do my 30-day videos, 30-day, I've never quit with that. Even on Christmas Day, I did a live video. Even on New Year's Eve, did a live video. Even on New Year's Day, did a live video. I've live video streamed every single day since just before lockdown when it happened. And I've done that and I've never quit it. But I tell you what, the amount of coverage and exposure I've got as a result of doing these live videos every single day has compounded it hugely, where people come to me straight away and go, I feel like I know you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why do you think I still do that? And I do that all the time. I discipline myself to do that all the time. But that's another thing. Could you, what I'm really excited about there's somebody at this point in time, possibly even watching or listening to this on a podcast later on. It will be a millionaire in the future. You don't know it yet, but you will possibly be a millionaire if you really want to be in the future because of your actions and what you're learning right now and what it will take you into the future. So that's what will happen for some people that could be watching or listening to this. And some people will believe this. Some people will believe that statement, and some people will just not believe that at all because they don't have that mental thinking yet. And that's why it's important to keep reading as a result. Even though you don't want to read, just discipline yourself to read 20 minutes a day.
Yeah, I mean, the importance of discipline and obviously disciplining yourself and your strategy and things is so important. But I think, if you don't believe in yourself, and like you say, there'll be people out there that are going to be millionaires that don't know it yet, but people that automatically just shut that down and think, oh, I'm never going to be a millionaire. You fail at the first hurdle. So you need to believe in yourself, definitely. I think that's so important.
It's just about keeping going. It's never quitting. It's just every single day you do something, even though you don't have that in sight just now, even though you don't realize, have faith in yourself. There's something greater coming. There's something on the horizon. It's going to happen for you. You have that complete and utter faith in yourself. If you don't know what it is, it's going to happen for you. It will happen at some point in time. Remember, with opportunity and preparation, the point of readiness happening, it will happen for you. So hold in there, hold on tight, keep your focus, and it will accelerate your performance. Every dog has their day. Even on your downside, always remember that. Every dog has their day. Always remember it as well. Even on your lowest points, every dog has their day. And even the people you see around about you, when they just know happen for them, it will bounce back for them. That's what's happened. If you look at every successful person in their history, they've always bounced back from somewhere at some point in time. BSE, avian flu, McDonald's, KFC, you're all going out of business. Nobody's using chicken anymore. Did they bother? No, they just kept going and they're on the up again. McDonald's on the up again. All these different things. And that's exactly what you should be personally for yourself. It will happen if you have faith and keep that faith in yourself as well.
Yeah, brilliant. That kind of brings us to the end, Jim, and thanks for wrapping up and those words of wisdom, which I think really are so relevant to what we've been speaking about today. These 10 rules are so important to get your money right. You could look back over them if you're watching this, read back through those 10 points, listen to what we've spoke about today. And if you are on that journey, always speak to the right people who can help you achieve your goals and help you along in your journey. The people that are qualified in each different field, like you say, Jim, whether it's financial advisors, mortgage advisors, they will be the ones that you need to speak to make sure things are done correctly. If it's relating to tax and things as well, it's not always easy, it's not always simple, but that's why people are trained in this, to help people do that. And that's us for today, Jim. So
Perfect.
yeah, that's been really good. Thanks very much. I hope everybody found that interesting. Drop comments in the comments box. We'll come back to anybody if it's a rerun. And for me, that is good afternoon, and see you later.
Goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him.